I never planned to write any of this down. Surgeons aren't storytellers. We record vitals, not memories. But after what happened, I need to put the facts somewhere before they disappear with the rest of the world. I was a trauma surgeon at Denver General. My days were blood, adrenaline, and paperwork. I'd seen everything: gunshots, car wrecks, overdoses. Death had rules, and I understood them, until the day it stopped following them. This isn't a hero story. It's just what I saw, what I did, and what I lost during the first 7 days, before the world remembered how fragile it really was. Hour 0 to 2. Routine noise. I'd been on call for 31 hours when it started. Denver General's trauma wing has a particular smell. Iodine, sweat, metal. It seeps into your scrubs, your skin, your thoughts. Around 5:30 a.m., the hospital quieted the way it only does right before shift change. I was dictating discharge notes for a gunshot patient when the news feed in the break room showed a red ticker. Unprovoked violent attacks reported in Colorado Springs, Boulder, and Pueblo. Police cite possible designer drug use. We laughed. Someone said, bath salts again. Someone else added, or TikTok. That's how denial sounds. Casual, tired, and half awake. I sterilized my instruments. My hands moved on muscle memory. Check clamps, rinse forceps, fold drape corners tight. My head was already at home, imagining my wife, Laura, and our son, Evan, getting ready for school. I hadn't seen them awake in 2 days. Then, the trauma pager went off. 3 inbound, the dispatcher said. Multiple victims from a bus crash on I-70, possible bites. Bites? I repeated. Affirmative. Severe bleeding, agitated. The paramedics came through the sliding doors 10 minutes later. I remember the first patient, a middle-aged man, shirt shredded, eyes wide and unfocused. He kept muttering, "Don't let her touch me." His pulse was thready, blood pressure collapsing. The second was a woman, maybe late 20s, covered in blood not entirely her own. The third didn't make it through the door. He flatlined in the ambulance bay. We worked the first 2 simultaneously. Nurse Daniels cut away clothing. I inserted a large-bore IV into the man's left antecubital, fluids running wide open. The wounds looked human, ragged crescents, deep tissue missing. You don't mistake a human bite for anything else. The spacing of the incisors, the crush of tissue. It's diagnostic. Rabies, Daniels whispered. Not that fast, I said. Get me tetanus and broad-spectrum antibiotics. The woman started convulsing on the next gurney. Her heart rate shot past 180. We sedated, restrained, intubated. None of it helped. Then she stopped moving. Flatline. I stepped back, sweat soaking my collar. Time of death, 6:51. And then she sat up. No pulse, no respiration. Eyes open, pupils blown wide like oil slicks. The restraint snapped taut. The resident screamed. I didn't think. I grabbed her shoulders, tried to push her back down, shouting for security. She turned her head toward me and, God help me, she bit the air, teeth clacking centimeters from my wrist. Security tased her. Nothing. Then one of them drove a metal oxygen tank into her skull. That worked. For 5 seconds, the trauma bay was silent, except for the cardiac monitor screaming a continuous tone. Daniels whispered, "What the hell was that?" No one answered. By mid-morning, every ER in Denver was overrun. Calls came through the radio, paramedics screaming, "They're biting us. Get doors locked." And then static. Hospital security sealed the entrances, but people kept pounding on the glass. families, police. One kid in a blood-soaked hoodie begging us to help his mother, who had collapsed but won't die. We were trained for everything from mass shootings to bioterror drills. But nothing prepared us for watching a patient die twice. At 9:42 a.m., Nurse Daniels, still pale, shaking, tried to calm an elderly man who'd been bitten on the arm. He coded during a blood draw. She turned away to call me, and he lunged, biting deep into her neck. Her scream cut through the entire ward. I pressed gauze against her wound, trying to compress the arterial spray. She looked up at me, eyes wide. "Mike," she gasped, "don't let me." She didn't finish the sentence. She went limp. I kept pressure on the wound long after I knew it was useless. When she came back, 10 minutes later, I wasn't there. I'd locked myself in the supply room. For the next 30 minutes, I listened to the chaos outside. The pounding, the screams, the metallic crash of rolling beds hitting walls. Something heavy slammed against the doors, once, twice, then went still. I took inventory. 2 duffel bags. I filled them. 4 saline, morphine, antibiotics, suture kits, gloves, bandages, surgical scissors, a portable defibrillator. Not because I thought I could fix this, because preparation gave me something to hold on to. The PA system crackled. "All personnel, evacuate immediately. National Guard has been..." Static. That's when the lights flickered out. Emergency generators kicked in, humming weakly. The corridors looked different under red emergency lighting, longer, darker, smeared with shadow. I stepped out, duffel over my shoulder, scalpel in hand. The air smelled of blood and ozone. Bodies littered the floor. Some moved. The trauma ward, my ward, was gone. What replaced it was primal. Nurses crouched over patients, tearing into them. Security guards firing sidearms down the hallway. The sound was like popcorn. Short, dry bursts. One of the paramedics, Jason, stumbled out of a room, clutching his abdomen. "Doc, help me." His uniform was soaked in blood. He'd been bitten across the ribs. "I can stop the bleeding," I said automatically. He shook his head. "Don't waste it." "They don't die, Mike." He pressed a pistol into my hand. "1 round left." I hesitated. "You'll need it more than me," he said, then turned and limped toward the stairwell. I heard a single shot a moment later. That's when I stopped being a doctor and started being something else. I made it to the ambulance bay by crawling along the wall, using gurneys for cover. The automatic doors were shattered. A cold wind carried the smell of exhaust and burning rubber. I stepped over 3 bodies, one of them a child. My gloves were slick, the duffel heavy on my back. I spotted my Jeep, black Wrangler Rubicon, lifted, winch on the front bumper. I'd always called it overkill. Now it was salvation. I sprinted. Something grabbed my ankle. I kicked free, slammed into the driver's seat, and gunned the engine. A shape hit the windshield. Bloody face, empty eyes. I floored it, shattering glass, and drove straight through the chaos. Tires crunching over things I didn't look at. When I cleared the hospital gate, the city skyline was on fire. Hour 12 to 24, survival instinct. I don't remember most of the drive. Shock does that. Turns the world into snapshots instead of film. One moment I was weaving through wrecked cars on Colfax Avenue. The next, I was staring at a man standing in the middle of the highway, his clothes torn, hands red up to the elbows. He didn't move when I hit the horn, didn't even blink, just watched me through the cracked glass. I swerved into the median and gunned it over the grass. The Rubicon suspension bucked hard. I clipped a mailbox and kept going. My hands shook so badly I almost couldn't shift. Every few miles, I stopped to help when I could. Habit, I guess. Training. On a side road near Golden, I found a minivan with a hood up and a woman waving a bloody towel. 2 kids were crying in the back. Her husband lay on the pavement, pale and sweating. He'd been bitten on the shoulder, deep, jagged, necrotic tissue already turning gray around the edges. "Doctor?" she asked when she saw my badge. Her voice cracked on the word. I examined the wound. The tissue necrosis was spreading faster than anything bacterial I'd ever seen. Clotting was non-existent. No fever, just hypoxia, tremors, and a slowing pulse. He was dying, but not the normal kind. "We can clean it," she said. "You can stitch it, right?" I looked at her kids. They were maybe 7 and 10, the same age as Evan. "I can stop the bleeding," I said, "but it won't stop this." She didn't understand, or maybe refused to. Denial is stronger than morphine. I gave him morphine anyway, heavy dose, enough to ease it. I told her to hold his hand to keep the kids back. When he stopped breathing, I waited 3 minutes, then pulled her gently away. She screamed when he moved again. I left before I could see what happened next. The guilt came later. The logic came first. Save who you can. Day 2, home. I reached our house in the foothills just after dawn. The sky was streaked orange, ash drifting like snow. The power grid was down, cell service long gone. The front door was barricaded from the inside. That was a good sign. "Laura," I called. "It's me, Mike." There was movement behind the curtains. The door opened a crack. A shotgun barrel appeared first. She was trembling when she saw me. "Jesus Christ, Mike," I thought. "I know." We hugged, hard enough that it hurt. Evan came running down the stairs in his pajamas, hair sticking up in all directions. He slammed into me, arms around my waist. I hadn't realized how much I'd been holding in until that moment. We spent the next few hours checking the house. She'd done everything right. Filled the bathtub, sealed the windows, stocked food and water. Laura was a planner. She used to joke that she married me because surgeons always think in contingencies. That night, while Evan slept, we sat in the dark listening to the radio. The emergency broadcast kept looping. "Stay indoors. Avoid contact with infected individuals. The condition is transmitted through bites or exchange of bodily fluids. Do not attempt to aid the infected." Laura stared at the radio like it was lying to her. "They can't just give up on people. They're not people anymore," I said quietly. She looked at me then, not like a husband, but like someone she didn't quite recognize. Day 3 and 4, adaptation. By the 3rd day, the city lights were gone. Denver was a silent black silhouette on the horizon, occasionally flickering orange from fires. We packed the Jeep at dawn, non-perishables, meds, water, camping gear. Laura insisted we bring Evan's stuffed fox. I didn't argue. Drove west, up into the Rockies, toward the old cabin we used on weekends. It wasn't much, a single-room structure near a lake, but it was defensible, remote, off every main road. The drive took 6 hours through back roads. We passed overturned trucks, burned-out cars, a few bodies. No survivors. When we arrived, the air was colder, cleaner. The forest felt untouched, almost cruelly peaceful. I took inventory again: medical kits, antibiotics, gauze, alcohol pads, 1 firearm with limited ammunition, a field surgical kit from the hospital, enough morphine to ease pain, but not enough to save anyone who got bit. Laura asked what I'd do if one of us was bitten. I didn't answer. That night, I started journaling. Symptom progression, incubation estimates, observed behavior. It gave me something to control. Science as therapy. Based on what I'd seen, reanimation occurred within 3 to 10 minutes post-mortem, depending on blood loss and temperature. No neural activity, pure motor reflex. No higher function, just hunger. I wrote, "They're not undead. They're hijacked. A perfect storm of virology and nightmare." Day 5, rationing and routine. We fell into a rhythm. Mornings, collect water from the lake, boil and filter. Afternoons, check perimeter, reinforce doors. Evenings, radio updates, less frequent now, more static. Evan handled it better than I expected. Kids adapt faster. He started calling our Jeep the Beast. Said it was our escape pod. I taught him how to change a tire, how to listen for the click of a loaded chamber without touching the trigger. Laura avoided talking about the hospital, or the city, or the future. I understood. Some truths are too raw to share. At night, when Evan was asleep, I'd sit outside and listen. Sometimes, far off, you could hear them. That wet, dragging shuffle. Low moans carried by the wind. Once, I saw movement near the tree line, a figure stumbling through the dark. I stayed still until it passed. My hand still shook when I held a scalpel. Not from fear, but from memory. Day 6, contact. Around midday, a voice crackled through the radio. Faint, male, strained. Medical personnel, if anyone can hear this. Establishing safe zone. Colorado Springs Air Base. We have... Static Laura wanted to go. It's the military, Mike. They'll have food, protection. I stared at the map. The route ran through half-collapsed highways and suburbs crawling with infected. It's not a safe zone, I said. It's a target. She didn't argue, but I saw the hope die in her eyes. That night, Evan asked, "Are the bad people sick forever?" I told him, "Yeah, buddy." For a while, he thought about that. Then we just wait till it's over. I didn't have the heart to tell him it might never be. Day 7, still human. Snow fell overnight, thin, soft flakes drifting over the cabin roof. The world looked cleaner than it deserved to. The fire crackled. For a moment, it felt almost normal. I held Evan close while he slept. Laura sat by the window, shotgun across her lap, watching the snow. I opened my journal and wrote, Day 7, still breathing, still human. The world we knew was gone, no hospitals, no laws, no order. But the instinct to heal, to protect, to endure, that's harder to kill than flesh. Outside, the snow muffled everything, even the distant sounds of the dead. For the first time in a week, I let myself believe we might make it to day 8.